Welcome, dear viewer, to Hope Channel Kenya. This is Thinking Cup, and with me is a gentleman that you want to know a little bit more about. Elder Justin, you want to say something about yourself to my viewer?
Good. Yeah, thank you, Pastor, for this opportunity of coming to Hope Channel Kenya. Like you rightly said, I'm an elder. My name is Justin Mabea.
Right.
I worship at Mount Olives SDA Church.
Yes.
We are located in Ngong, on your way to Matasia. It's a new church. We're about 6 years old, going to 7 years now.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a father. I'm a husband to one wife, Mary.
Yes.
And we have 3 children, a boy who is 20 years old, a girl, 2 girls, one who is 17, another one who is 14 years old. So I'm basically dealing with teenagers.
Wow. This is a man who is a father and a parent and a husband in active and regular standing, as you can tell from his words. Now, he tells me from what I have here, Elder Mabea, he's working with Land Olex in international development on a program called Feed the Future Kenya Innovation Engine, where Justin is an agricultural specialist, innovator, so to speak, with USAID as a contractor. Elder Mabea, let me just ask you a question. When we talk about food security for you as an agricultural scientist, how do you understand that?
Food security basically means having enough food in terms of volume, quantities, but also having enough food in terms of quality.
Right.
Basically speaking to the element of to what extent that food is sufficient in terms of nutrition. Yeah, so it's not just having, maize per se, but accompanied to that, what else accompanies the maize to make sure that you really have food that supplies you in terms of nutritional requirements, and also in terms of sufficient quantities to meet the needs of
at the table for the family.
For the family, yeah.
Is there a sense in which talking about food security qualitatively and quantitatively has also to do with population?
Exactly, yes. Yeah, I mean, we have had a challenge in Kenya in terms of food security, but part of it is related to distribution of our food. There are times when we have enough food. I mean, exists actually a glut of production in North Rift, Kitale, and those kind of places.
Yes.
While at the same time, we have a deficiency of supply of food in, say, northeastern Kenya or eastern Kenya,
right,
southeastern Kenya, Ukambani and those places, which is an element of having excess in some point,
right,
and a deficiency in another. Relative to the population in each one of those places. Yes.
So the dynamics of market and transport come into play.
Exactly.
We'll talk about it shortly, but the one reason why I was laughing was when you see that it's not just about having maize or ugali on table. And, what came to my mind is there a sense in which in Kenya we can say that ugali is our staple food?
I think yes. Ugali is our staple food. I think predominantly maize or ugali was a staple food towards the western Kenya of the country.
Right.
I mean, west of the Rift,
Yes.
and probably towards the west.
Right.
But over time, that has spread
Yes.
to the rest of the country.
Yes.
So when you talk about food in Kenya, it's synonymous to
Ugali's
and
availability.
maize. Yeah. So when we don't have enough maize in the country, we are famine. We are hungry as a country. Yeah. So when you talk about food security, in many ways, it's synonymous to availability of ugali.
But lately, trends are changing, are they not, with regard to things like rice? I'm told, growing up, my mother tells me, growing up, chapati and rice was for the elite. It no longer is. Could you say that?
Yes, to some extent, that has opened up. Chapati eating was a Christmas business. But over time, I think that has changed significantly, or to some extent, I would say. I mean, now people eat chapati, every so often. Fairly regularly, even in the rural settings where we grew up. But even as we say that, chapati rice are not, they're not our staple sources of food. You can't compare them with maize whatsoever.
No.
Of course, for some communities, like communities towards northeastern Kenya,
and cost perhaps.
You would talk about, rice and a bit of chapati. But even then, they have also adopted maize and ugali as a major source of carbohydrates in their communities.
Right.
In actual sense, maize, the adoption of maize and eating maize products has gone up, particularly ugali has gone up across the country.
Right.
Yes, there has been some bit of inroad in terms of rice and chapati and wheat products, but not to the extent that they can be described as substituting maize as a staple. We are not yet there.
So really, we must make sure we invest well in maize.
Yes.
As a staple
for
food.
now, yes. Of course, while we advocate for Kenyans as a nation, the citizens of this country, trying to adopt other sources of food, so that we do not find our situation ourselves in a very difficult situation because we don't have maize. So that we can, for example, say, yes, we have rice here, though we don't have maize, we can eat. Yes, we have chapati or wheat flour, and we can eat and be comfortable. But it also depends on really about availability and the cost of those items.
In fact, let me just ask you straight on, what is your sense about affordability of, let's say, maize as the major staple food we have in the country, vis-a-vis something like rice? If we were to see, maize sometimes is, we are deficient in terms of production because it really depends on the western side of Kenya. Can, for example, communities in the eastern side depend on rice? Is it affordable? And is maize even affordable to the ordinary person?
Yeah. Of course, the reason why maize you can describe it as being affordable is because it's grown across the country.
By everyone?
Almost everyone. I mean, maize is everyone's crop.
Yes.
And people grow maize predominantly for subsistence reasons, to eat at home, to supply for the food security needs of the family. Unlike rice and wheat, which are primarily commercial.
Okay.
Yeah, so those people who grow wheat and grow rice, they
are
don't
going to be consuming it in their homes.
They could be consuming in their homes.
But they buy.
But they buy, actually. And you'll discover that they produce, like, for example, farmers in Mwea.
Yes.
Which is a major source of our rice locally. They grow wheat, rice.
Yes.
But at the same time grow maize at home.
Yes.
Yeah, so they grow maize for food, for home subsistence consumption, and grow rice for business, for commercial, for income. So almost all that rice comes to Nairobi because it's their cash crop.
Okay.
It's their cash crop.
Could you say that, just before you conclude that, could you see that there could be an emergence of the middle class in Kenya? That's why rice as an alternative and wheat products are also being consumed, like you have spaghetti and those kind of things. What's your sense of that?
Yes, that could be true. Of course, there's also the element of rural-urban migration. Yes, there's an increase of people you describe as middle class, and therefore who would, though they are in the background and social settings, they're probably ugali eaters like me and you.
And you got it right.
But when we come to Nairobi or these urban settings or places of work, then we decide to adopt alternative sources of our carbohydrates. While ugali may still be the major, delicacy at our dining tables, but yet at the same time we look at rice as an also alternatives. And then of course the other thing is that we grow families here. We have children, and as they grow up, they don't have the kind of background we have. So ugali may not be,
a major thing
for them. So their demand for alternative sources of carbohydrates, rice, chapati,
is
increasing. So and that provides therefore obvious market for rice growers, for wheat growers, and importers.
Now you see that the affordability with regard to maize, especially, is because we grow it anyway.
We grow it anyway.
But with the rice, even if they are grown by some farmers, they still have to grow maize, one. And rice seems to have a sense in which it is an elitist product on our table, is it?
That's true. That's true, really. I mean, the elitist in the sense also that it is more like an urban product, an urban food, than a rural food. I mean, when you eat rice in rural settings, when we go home, to our rural homes, when you eat rice, it's during a ceremony in many ways. You have visitors. I mean, so you say let's cook ugali, let's cook chapati, and let's cook rice. But on a daily basis, what people eat actually, because the majority of us really live in our rural settings.
Yes.
And the main source of food. The staple food for us out there is ugali.
Yeah, it is.
Is ugali, yeah. So when we take rice, it is one so those occasional times. Yeah. So it's predominantly an urban food, where urban may mean Nairobi or even as small towns like Kisii, Narok, Embu, Meru. Those kind of settings. And So, but as you go to the rural, people would buy rice, but
for specialized
occasions. Yes.
Let me ask you something about access to food generally. When I in the market, access to food and food market. When I travel around a lot, there's a sense in which I feel that agricultural areas that are really rich in terms of availability of rainfall, and people are really farming, food coming out of those basket regions, it's not very easy. You, from what I see, you are a policyman with your organization. Is there a problem that you have seen, and what can be done?
Yeah, I think over time, food production keeps fluctuating significantly. But you would say though there are elements that are impact negatively on food production, for example, weather changes. But as a country, I don't think we've really been food secure, for a long time.
No,
we have had challenges of oscillating up and down. Yeah, but there could be a number of reasons why food production is a problem in this country. Part of it is the weather patterns. We have no control over that. But number two is also about...
But someone could argue that Israel is not as blessed with rains or weather that we have, and yet she's food secure.
Exactly.
What is it we know? Are we still dependent on rain-fed agriculture? Is that sustainable with the population projected to be 2050 hitting 100 million? Is that something we should be sitting back and doing nothing about now?
Exactly. That's actually what I was going to. The second thing is that we are probably very slow as a country in adopting, technology.
Yes.
And technology significantly impacts on production. It could be technology in terms of seed, equipment like irrigation equipment, or machinery. We have not quite adopted that as a country. So, like you would see, farmers, for example, in the Lake region. The Lake region. I mean,
that's a wide place.
It's a wide place. You're talking about a population of about 15 million.
Yes.
They heavily depend on farmer-saved seeds.
Yes.
You harvest from your last season, eat a bit of it, and a little of it you put it in the ceiling board. Yeah, in the granary or in the ceiling board you select, which is scientific. That selecting. Look at a crop and look at this is good crop. Good. So and plant in the next season. So there are there are varieties of maize you can plant from season to season, and they do not degrade.
No.
But there also if you're planting hybrid maize,
Yes.
and then you save seed and plant it the next season, it degenerates significantly.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so that significantly impacts on, and then there's very low use of, for example, fertilizer, or even organic fertilizer. Leave alone the artificial fertilizer.
Some of us are very suspicious about it.
Of artificial fertilizer. You think that,
Yeah, it could be something else.
Yeah, but I do not think that is really a problem. I mean, artificial fertilizers are standard fertilizers used globally. It's really about how you use it, how often you use it, and what kind of integration you give those fertilizers at the time of use with organic sources of fertilizer, because soil must be kept healthy.
Yes.
We only have food production when we have healthy soil. A healthy soil, you can't depend on artificial fertilizers only. You must have organic fertilizer to integrate. So when you harvest, you should allow the crop to rot back into the ground.
Are you referring to intercropping with natural ecosystem?
Yes, you can intercrop, but even when you harvest maize, for example, the stovers, the stalks that you have, should be plowed back into the soil so that they
as mulching cover.
As mulching, or even as organic matter.
Yes.
To make sure that the soil fertility is maintained, the organic nature of the soil structure is maintained, so that it maintains a good soil health to enable crop production. Yeah. So use of new technology is really very low.
Yes. Our uptake is it deliberate somewhere? Is it cultural?
I think it's or
affordability.
It's affordability mainly. For example, if you're buying maize seed, a bag of 5 kg.
Yes.
A bag of 5 kg is going to about 2,000 shillings.
That's well beyond.
That's way beyond many people.
Yes.
And a bag of 5 kg is just enough for an acre.
Wow.
Yeah, so
wow.
Yeah, so and there are not many people who have the kind of income anyway in the rural setting. Yeah, we have very low income levels in rural settings. So the capacity of the smallholder farmers who are subsistence farmers to grow enough food for themselves is really a problem. So that's affordability. And then when we have a shortage of rain,
yes,
we do not have irrigation systems. We don't have there are very few people who have the privilege of accessing water through irrigation in this country. Very few. I mean, we are forever dependent on rainfall.
That's not safe for us.
It's not safe for sure. And the weather patterns have changed significantly
Very
over
erratic.
time. Very erratic. With rains, you can't rely on them. They come, yes, like now, for example, there is rain in Western Kenya, but the rest of Eastern
is dry
completely.
And the whole population is on this end also.
This is it. So you can't quite plan our agriculture. I remember in the days I grew up, we knew that 15th of March every year, there's going to be rain. And it came precisely. And for the long rains. And then they extended up to May.
Yes.
And we planned and planted with that. And then you know that sometime in October, by mid-October, there'll be rain. Short rains.
Yes.
But that is gone, and gone forever. Yeah? So we can't quite rely on that.
Now, at your level as policy people with the organization, is there something you're doing to advise? Is it through the government agencies or multi-sector? I don't know how. So that this kind of knowledge, certainly we'll be talking about at the family level, because that's where the rubber hit the road. But
that's true.
You can't avoid helping to feel like sometimes we are not in charge of the mechanisms of doing food security for our people.
Yeah, I know there is quite a number of players in agriculture. Agriculture is a core business of any country, really.
Of course.
I mean, like in this country, 25% of our GDP is from agriculture directly, at least from the statistics, and about 25% indirectly from other related businesses. And so you, therefore, by virtue of that, get that there are many people who are in agriculture. And so the government, Minister of Agriculture, is a principal or lead in making sure that we have food security in this country.
Right.
So by its own by its own leadership, by that, so there are many players. There are government, civil society, NGOs, therefore, and private sector players that are integrated into the whole of this. And so you have, other than mainstream Ministry of Agriculture, you have parastatals that support agriculture, and there are many. And then you have private sector companies that trade or do business in agriculture, and there are many. And so all this, and then the NGOs, like where I work is an NGO, in Land O'Lakes International Development is an NGO, and many others like that. We are all collaborating, really, in this. Yeah, and you know, the thing is, in terms of policy and structure, agriculture is devolved. So there is the national government and there is the county government. So, but the actual activities in agriculture are county based. So, and then, you know, we've had this for the last 5 years. So the process is really, we have teething challenges. So that kind of harmony or flow of information and integration of various players is yet to be really fully crystallized. So some counties, they're doing very well, but the others really have challenges in making sure that they're in place. And then what has happened over time is that Minister of Agriculture was the main player, especially in reaching out to smallholder farmers and getting them information relevant for agricultural production. But over time, that has weakened significantly. So we do not have like what we used to call, in the time I worked for the Minister of Agriculture, we used to call frontline extension services. People who actually get to the farmer level. I remember as I grew up, there were all these extension officers who used to come home in uniform. And they advised my dad and us together, and and the community, on how to grow what crops and how to take care of livestock.
That's no longer happening.
That is there, but it's very weak, for sure. You can say
something needs to be done to that.
Something needs to be done to that. Yeah, but then again, on the farmers themselves, you can't wait until the government comes over to help you feed.
Of course
not. You must find a way. So farmers in many places have actually organized themselves into farmer groups, cooperatives, youth groups, women groups, to try and address a need around food security. And that significantly has helped address some of the challenges of food security. And many of these, especially non-governmental organizations, have found a way of latching into this kind of already organized groups. And I would encourage
that's the way to go.
That is the way to go.
We have just 3 minutes before we go on the break. Just mention something small about our buying power. Do you feel the population in Kenya is able, if food was available in all the supermarkets, I can see supermarkets are really becoming the alternative places of securing our food rations. Is our buying power there yet? So that we can win people and say, look, you don't have to do farming. Let the big guys do the farming. You just have a home and get your food from the supermarket. Can we try that route?
That is not practical for many Kenyans. Our income levels are still very low, for sure. Look at a packet of unga. So until the government, subsidized this, the figures had gone up to 150, 200, close to 200 shillings, a bag of 2 kg. And that is for a family like mine, we are 5, a packet of ugali.
Goes for a meal.
For a meal or 2. And how many people can afford?
Like 400 bob every day.
It's really, when you did that for 500 shillings every week for unga. Because there are other additives, to make a meal and bring it to the table. There are many other. There are not many people who can do that. I think the option of buying is only left for those who live in urban centers.
Like we do.
Right. Because we probably don't have an option unless we live in in peri-urban settings where I live, and you have a small garden. But even then, you can only do probably vegetables for a period of time. So we will still have to go to the supermarket, local markets to buy. But the community out there, they should really work at producing food for themselves at home and enough for market, so that they have money, they have food, yes, and the money to take care of other needs, school fees, health, and
many other bills,
dressing, and many other things.
That's Justin Mabea talking about food security. We are going on a short break. When we come back, we'll be looking at a little bit more about the buying power, and we'll also look a little bit at policy framework and also personal involvement with regard to ensuring food security. You don't want to touch your remote control because shortly we'll be back. Cup, we are dealing with matters food security, and I have with me Elder Mabea. He tells me he's a family man married to his darling Mary, but more importantly, of course that's important, he is an agricultural innovation specialist with Land O'Lakes, which is an NGO, he says, with the project of Feeding the Future Kenya Innovation Engine in Nairobi. Elder Mabea, we're talking about the buying power, and you said it's a little bit low. Yeah. We can go the route of families or communities being weaned of doing farming and let the big guys do the farming, and then we just source from the market. And you're saying that our income levels are low. But from where I see it, we've divided land so much, it becomes so petty. I don't even know whether it is financially or economically sustainable and viable to continue doing farming at the family level with those small plots that we have across the nation now. Except at places like the ranches we have in some parts of Mount Kenya, and then Trans Nzoia, parts of Uasin Gishu and Narok. The rest of the nation, the farms have been really reduced. How do we go the direction of food security? That's the direction we are having with land.
Yeah, I know land subdivision is a historical thing. I don't think we can make any effort towards changing it a lot, because it's about culture. It's about culture. I mean, I'm born into my father's family as a son, and then later on, I expect my dad to share with me the piece of land.
It's an entitlement.
It's an entitlement. That's why we talk about family land, we talk about ancestral land. I mean, yeah, because we feel this is my portion. I mean, and so we will continue subdividing land for some time until it is no more.
And then we are hit with insecurity for real.
Yes, although in this country, by the way, food production predominantly comes from smallholder farmers.
Oh,
yes.
How is that?
Smallholder farmers are the ones that feed this country. Yes, it's true. I mean, yes, it's true that we have large-scale production. Kitale, maybe.
Laikipia,
Narok, and a bit of Nakuru.
And Uasin
And Uasin Gishu, those places. Yeah, but then in those places, for example, we have what we have in Narok is barley. The same thing with the Nanyuki and Laikipia, which takes a big chunk of land. And wheat, yeah, which is not a major
it's not a major food
here. Yeah, so we are left with Kitale as the main source of our food.
Wow, and Nakuru.
And a bit of Nakuru. But even in Nakuru, majority of the farmers there are smallholder farmers.
Okay.
Even in Kitale, smallholder farmers, 2 acres, 5 acres. No, there are very few people who have 150 or 2,000, those kind of scale of production. But again, smallholder farmer, having a small size of land in itself does not mean an impediment to food production. China.
Are you saying that we can use technology?
We can use technology to increase our food production at our smallholder setting. I mean, China is not necessarily a large. They have 1 point something close to 2 billion people.
Yes, that's right.
And the majority of them are smallholder farmers, and they produce for themselves and the world.
Yes.
It's really about how do we make sure we make the most of the space we have, use technology, use improved seed, use improved fertilizer and organic fertilizer inclusive, and then irrigation, focus on irrigation as well, so that we have food production throughout the year.
Sustainably.
Sustainably.
What are you guys doing at your level with Land O'Lakes, really, in ensuring that professionally we can arrive at a situation where we have not fluctuating, but sustainable levels of food security at the family level?
I mean, at the family level, since the Ministry of Agriculture, county governments are basically in control of agriculture,
yeah,
which is really a good idea. I mean, take take it to the county government where food is being produced and let them manage food production. So I think ideally the county government should be more proactive in ensuring at the farmer level, there is enhanced food production.
Like driving the bus.
Driving the bus.
Then you guys come on board.
Exactly. Because what NGOs do is basically supplementary. The main driver for agricultural activities and food security is really government. And we cannot operate without the blessing of the government.
No.
That's for sure. There's no way. But there's willingness from multilateral donors to support food production and food security across the country. But the leadership has to come from county governments. And I think that's where we need to nap the thing. If the county governments significantly work towards enhanced food production at family level, there will be a significant amount of support in that direction. I think resources towards enhancing food production at family level, at smallholder farmer level, are not quite there yet.
Not yet.
Not quite there yet. Even as the government disburses funds to the county government to support agricultural activities, how much of that comes from national government trickles down to the smallholder farmer is really very insignificant.
What would you expect as an ideal situation? Would you expect a family to have something to do with fertilizer, with maybe machines for farming, if it was to trickle down, places for storage, those kind of things? Is it something we cannot do? Libya did it.
We can do it. I expect a farmer to have access to fertilizer, access to good seed, and labor, access to market, storage facilities, because post-harvest issues are really a major problem in this country. You harvest maize, all those bags, and
where do you keep?
Even if you kept them, then they're attacked by Osama. What we call larger grain borer, and it just basically weighs down the maize completely. So access to good post-harvest management practices in terms of maybe a granary and bags that prevent access to bags that prevent pest infestation, or even use of pesticides that control those post-harvest pests.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's a major problem. We actually, a lot of time, we don't focus on post-harvest. We look at production. And once a farmer has produced his maize, we are done with him. But actually, there is a major problem beyond the harvest. Managing what you have harvested. So that it can take you throughout the year or throughout the next several months before you have another harvest. So that is important. And that's with regard to machinery. Those are expensive equipment. Farmers will not all farmers will have.
They cannot afford.
But county governments can facilitate what we call more like mechanization hubs.
Right. Yes.
Mechanization hubs, so that in a particular region, you have you set up a place where you have all these machinery, a tractor, a harrow, some transport facility, where farmers can go and hire, and it goes back, and the county can manage that, or maybe a farmers cooperative can manage that, so that everyone has easy access to that at affordable cost. So, but again, that is also a challenge. If you have a smallholder farmer, then what kind of machinery you need is another issue. It's not necessarily these big tractors that plow in Narok. But there are also machineries that are small,
adaptable to that
level. To smallholder farmers.
Is there a way in which banking and insurance can be players in this at the family level, in terms of offering? I know that some of the banks in Kenya are offering some small loans, soft loans, but the rates are prohibitive. I also know that when the farmer loses his crop, he doesn't have any security with regard to insurance. I don't know if there is any product like that in the market. What would be your thinking?
Yeah, they can get there. Insurance companies can get there. Financial institutions can get there. But as you said, finances are fairly expensive for smallholder farmers, especially because of the volume of production and the value of that production in the marketplace. I think the security is to get farmers into groups, so that they have the advantage of economies of scale.
Yes.
So if they produce a lot, then they can significantly dictate market prices.
Yes.
I mean, if for example Nakumat knows, or Uchumi, or National Citizen Produce Board, or Tasks, whichever source of market knows that farmers in Kitale or in Kisii, or in Meru, they have tomatoes, and they are reliable. And these are the volumes
that can come through.
And that's exactly what is happening with bananas from Meru.
And Kisii.
And Kisii, but significantly in Meru. Because farmers in Meru are so organized that they pull their bananas together. So a buyer does not go to an individual farmer.
Okay.
He goes to a market where the farmers have brought their bananas.
Yes.
And so the bananas are sold per kilo, not per bunch like it is from Kisii, for example.
Yes.
So that organization of farmers significantly improves their levels of controlling market.
And bargaining.
And bargaining power.
Is it a kind of a structure, if you ask me?
It's a structure.
Now, can that be benchmarked with other food items like maize everywhere?
Anything. It could be food crops, maize, beans, bananas, and even milk. Milk is actually a very organized industry.
Yeah.
And anything really that a farmer has. If the farmers pull together, your little, my little, together, you will have bags of the produce here.
Right.
And then we can supply to the market. And in any case, a buyer wants to be sure that the source is reliable.
That's a very important one.
Exactly. So I can't get to buy from you when I know you'll produce for me tomatoes, this month, and then the next time I'm buying from you is 5 months down the line. You
will not even venture.
Yeah, and so if farmers get organized, then they can they will have income that will make them strong financially, and if for purposes of microfinancing, they can support each other. I know microfinance institutions that finance groups.
Okay.
And the reason why they finance groups is that the groups kind of guarantee, the members of the group guarantee each other. There's what they call social capital.
Yes, social capital. I've seen that.
They guarantee each other. So otherwise, it is not safe for financial institution to give money to farmers.
To a person alone.
Farmers who depend on weather. Yeah.
Justin, tell me something about how other multi-sectoral agencies are playing, other than the government, whether at the county level or at the national level, in helping the individual family to be food secure. Yeah.
It is in many ways. It's in access to farm inputs. A number of players are supporting input access to smallholder farmers.
Yes.
Access to market is critical, really.
Someone can look for them up and get that kind of service.
Yes. In terms of advice, in terms of training, in terms of capacity building. So basically along the, what you can call value chains,
value chain, yes.
From production to market and back to production.
Okay.
So the multi-sectoral players are all distributed along the value chain.
Okay.
Access to inputs,
yes.
Production, market, access to finance,
wow.
Access to information generally about agriculture extension services. They're all in that sphere.
They're players.
They're players.
We shouldn't be having food insecurity. Our problem must be, we need to trace it. Now, tell me, what are the vulnerable, let me say, threats that render the families insecure with regard to food? I know you've said it maybe, but just crystallize it in a sense so that my audience can listen and really know this is a threat, I need to deal with it.
Yeah. I think one of our biggest challenges as a country is overdependence on one crop.
Okay.
Maize.
Even
when we have good weather, we don't necessarily have enough produce. I mean, like the challenge we had when is about 4 years now or something about the maize disease that ravaged the South Rift and bit of Nyanza and Western.
So it's been this year again. It was being announced, yes, in the media.
Yeah. I mean, I remember at my home, we grow maize. Maize is our food. So 1 or 2 years, we planted maize 2-3 times, and we lost it.
Wow.
We lost it completely. So that basically makes us beggars in terms of food security.
Yes.
So that's, I think, one of our biggest challenges. We do not have diversification in our sources of food. We need to enhance diversification, and we can work on that over time. I know it's not easy. Culture is a difficult thing to change because food is an element of culture.
It is.
Yeah, so that's one thing. Then another weakness, which I've alluded to in my previous statements, is operationalization as an individual farmer.
Yes, yes.
I mean, farming should be a business. You can't just grow food for eating only.
Okay, okay.
We must get to a situation where we grow enough and produce and get to the market. But when you do it as an individual, it is a struggle because you have to look for the market, sustain it yourself, and supply enough for that, which is not possible. We must get to a way where we get the farmers together and make sure that they actually operate together. And success stories about farmer cooperatives, farmer groups are there in this country. Githunguri farmers here, for example.
Yes, yes.
They are major milk producer and supplier in this town and around in the neighborhood, and even the export market.
Yes.
Farmers in Githunguri just got together, and they're now in control of their.
So there's strength in numbers.
There's strength in numbers and unity. There's no doubt about that. And then the other thing is, I think we have a challenge in, though we are talking about multi-sectoral players, you know, government, private sector, NGO, and civil society, and all this. We're not very well united. Yeah, we're not very.
Who should do it? Who should initiate this organization of groups? Who should do it? Is it the government or you guys?
It's government, for sure. Of course, there can be, you know, persuasion from other players, but the person who should take the leadership in getting multi-sectoral players into actively working together for the success of agriculture in one county is the government. And specifically, also, the county government in collaboration with the national government, because agriculture is decentralized.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, so when that is united, then flow of information is there, and there's no duplication of responsibility, because you find that there are several NGOs, for example, working among smallholder farmers,
Doing the same thing.
doing the same thing, and so farmers end up getting confused.
Who is doing what?
Who's doing what? Yeah, and then unfortunately that makes also farmers dependent on donor support.
Yeah, yeah.
So there isn't a situation where farmers are led to be independent, and be on their own.
And we need to do that.
We need to do that. We need to do that. We must get to make farmers independent. While yes, there may be good donations from well-wishers like you said, which is supporting from where I work, but there should be a level where farmers are able to run on their own.
Yes.
So the county government really has the role of making sure that there's streamlining of flow of information with regard to access of seed, access to inputs generally, and linkage to market, access to finance, so that, and then organization of farmers into groups, you know, so that they are all stronger. And I think that way, the vulnerability will significantly go down. Yeah.
I know we can never get to the ideal situation, but we need to grow. Justin is not done with me yet. I'm going to have him some other time again. But Justin, I'm going to have to let you tell my farmer.
But maybe before I tell the farmer something, I think something else, because this is a church media station. Hope Channel Kenya.
He has given me 5 more minutes, so say something.
Thank you. This is about the role of the church in making sure the farmer is stable.
Yes.
I think we have missed something in our church organizational structure. Right. I know our church is structured in a particular way, right, from the general conference down to the local church.
You don't feel like ADRA is doing something helpful?
ADRA, it may be, but ADRA is more like a relief organization. It is not a development organization. Okay, there's a bit of development in it. Okay, it's called Adventist Relief and Development Organization. But at the local church level, how many people know about ADRA?
Okay, I hear.
Really, they're not there. My view would be if the church would identify a way of having what you can call a development officer, based at, say, for example, at the conference level, and who has a bit of resources that mobilizes farmers, because really, church depends on smallholder farmers.
Yes, for their
trust funds.
Right.
But if the smallholder farmer doesn't have trust fund
and is vulnerable,
there's not
going to be any.
You can't go there and preach to a hungry man. Jesus had to feed them before he spoke to them.
Exactly.
So there has to be a way of making sure that the church actually feeds the people before you speak gospel to them, because gospel and food, I mean, both are food.
Yes, they are. One is spiritual, the other one is, what do I call it, literal? Physical. Right. Now, Justin, I think I have 2 or so minutes. I want you to tell my farmer across the nation, in fact, it's not only in Kenya, we go beyond.
Right.
What is the one advice you'll give a farmer so he can ensure he has food security? You have your camera right there, you can tell them.
Thank you.
Millions are listening to you.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I just want to encourage the farmer that it is possible to be food secure at your own level as a farmer. It is possible to do that. And I want to encourage that do the best you can in terms of access to improved technology. And if you have the privilege or the advantage of being close to a water source, make the most of the water source in terms of irrigation. And do not operate as an individual. Engage other farmers. Share information, share knowledge. Get to know what farmer A and B in your neighborhood does. And what is it that you can benefit them, even as you benefit from them. Pull together your abilities, your capabilities, because together you are strong. As an individual farmer, it will be a problem. Yes, you may feed your own family, but you may not be able to support the family sufficient enough to grow beyond you. So I encourage organization and coming together as a community, because then we are strong.
You can tell me that I need to host this man again, and yes, I will. Even before you ask me, I will host him again. And we're going to explore more. He hasn't finished what he needed to say, and so we'll be watching out when we come back with food security issues. And Justin will be right here on Hope Channel Kenya, where it happens, where we get this kind of people who speak to us and educate us so we can be able to think critically and be able to solve problems we have in society. As for now, it's bye from us. This is Thinking Cup.